Hello, welcome back. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Why You Worried About It. We are on a journey towards a better you. I am Lindsay Bush, HR Director with Crossroads Counseling.
And hey, everybody, I'm Susie Arbo. I'm a licensed professional counselor, and we are totally on this journey to a better you. And, we like to learn just as much as everybody else. And that's kind of why we decided to do this podcast. And we talk on here about things that you should worry about and definitely things that you shouldn't worry about because we spend a lot of time as humans, thinking and overthinking and overanalyzing and so today we're really excited because we actually have a guest that's going to help us
Yay.
with some of these thoughts. And so, Jill, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and tell everybody who you are?
Yes, I am Jill Janecke. I'm also a licensed mental health counselor in South Dakota, and I'm super excited to be here. And actually, the brain and talking about all this stuff is one of my favorite things. So I'm super excited for this conversation today.
That is awesome. And Jill, I kind of wanted to share a little bit about how we know you and how, why kind of you're on this show. So Jill and I actually grew up, it's kind of funny, we didn't know each other, but we grew up in towns like 30 minutes from each other in Minnesota. And our families were both farm families and whatnot. And then we both went to college at South Dakota State University. And then we got into the same graduate program, which was the counseling. Right. And on this show, we talk a lot about mental health, and that's kind of what we're passionate about is helping people improve the quality of their lives through their thoughts and whatnot. And so it's kind of a funny story, but so we were both going through grad school. And Jill, you wanna tell them kind of how we became
Yes,
friends? I love this story.
I will tell my side of the story because I'll try to make it a little bit better than what it was, what our brains probably perceived in our younger 20s. And so I would say that I had always noticed Susie in our undergrads. And my undergrad is in psychology and sociology, but I always see her being super social, right? Like she always had a million friends. She always had a big leadership. She's always outgoing. And then we started grad school. And, I would like to say that maybe I'm like a behavioral analyst. I love watching people. One of my favorite things is going to the mall, watching people figuring it out. And she stumped me because I would see her in class and she would just be so quiet and so studious and just sitting there attuned. I'm like, gosh, I just can't figure this out. And so my blunt self with positive or negative, I'll say at the moment maybe negative, but I went up to her, I saw her some in Brookings and I'm like, hey, I just was blunt and said, I can't figure it out. Are you an extrovert or an introvert?
That's perfect. Just cut to the chase.
I
We need
did. I did. I think
And
Susie was
and
probably blown off because maybe you'd never recognized yourself like that before as an introvert.
no, it was so funny because, and I think back to that, and I think I was kind of like, I mean, obviously I was caught off guard. I'm like, this girl, because I had always noticed you two, and we kind of ran in different circles and whatnot. But it was kind of funny because I was like, it kind of made me think, like, well, how am I, being perceived by other people? Because when I'm out and about and doing the dancing, or when we go out after the games, I would be Miss Social, and then when I was in class, I was just really kind of, just. You know, nose to the
focus.
grindstone and kind of go, 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 focus. Yeah. And so it was just kind of funny. So she kind of caught me off guard and I was kind of a little bit like, oh, but then I liked her, you know what I mean? After that. And it was like the rest is history, just best friends. And we keep in touch all these years. We talk several days a week on the phone in the morning. We're both in the same profession and do the same kind of businesses she's got Rising Hope up in South Dakota and we've got Country Crossroads Counseling here in Missouri. And so a lot of it's parallel. And so it's really fun to kind of keep up with the trends in mental health and stuff. So kind of a funny story, but Lindsay and I are super excited to learn from Jill today, aren't we,
Mhm.
Lindsay?
Oh yeah, I'm excited to. I love Jill. Jill's the best. I always knew she was an extrovert from the get, so I didn't have to ask her. I love it.
Yes, for sure, for sure. Okay, Jill. So tell us a little bit about what the topic is and kind of how it could help people listening today.
Yeah, well, you guys have mentioned a couple of things that I'm going to kind of go around to, and even the story within us, which I'll bring all back around. But one of the things that you guys said is like the worrying and what are you worried about, right? And I'm not sure what you guys have all explained to in here, but one of the favorite things, and I was totally, if I can move stuff around and get it out, I was going to get my brain out, is that I love the brain, right? And what we realize about the brain is that it is just like a huge organ that a lot of people kind of forget about, right? And we just think it's there, or it's like that we don't treat it, whatnot. And so the thing about the brain though, and I do have my brain here, which I love, the it is always trying to protect us. Okay, that's the biggest thing. And so when we talk about worrying, like you said, it's always trying to protect us, and therefore what it's doing is that our brain is constantly on alert, constantly looking for danger, right? And so it's also always doing that. And the thing about it is that when we think about our stories of meeting each other, which I think is really interesting, is that at that point in Susie's brain, she's probably like, oh my gosh, what is this okay? Who is this person? Is she dangerous? So actually, I feel like that probably enhanced her brain to be alerted to watch me more, because what was I, right? And it actually drew us together, which was a great thing. And so the thing is that our brain is always on the roll, right? It's always there. It's a great thing to protect you. But here's the thing that I did, and I do a conference in peer, or like a big women's retreat, and I pulled up a slide that I had that had a great quote that I actually had written down in a journal one day. And it says, anything that can entrap or overtake your life can be harmful in excess. And the thing about it is that's also our thoughts, our worries, what we put into that. And what I don't think people realize is that we think about all of our thoughts and all of these worries. We don't realize that they actually become an addiction to us. And what I love to talk about and what I've been writing about is about how we can actually become addicted to our life, but our life problems, which is so fascinating. Because what happens is that when we are addicted to, let's say, drama or maybe gossip, right? What does it do? It gives us stimulation in our brain, and it intrigues it and makes it on fire, right? And so then, like, if we don't have what we call dopamine, if we don't have dopamine, which is that ignite, that's what happens when we do something really fun, or we go on an adventure, or maybe it's a really fun event and we want to do it again because the dopamine's going in off in our brains, which makes us want to do it again. And it gives us joy and happiness. What people never talk about, though, is that there's a different type of dopamine. It's, again, the gossip, the drama, the scrolling on your phone, the highlights of the ads, maybe. But not only that, it's the paranoia of, am I good enough? And being compared to what I'm seeing on these phones for these young people. And so really it becomes this huge reward system. We always, Susie, you probably get this. You work with kids a lot. And, we always used to say to parents, remember, negative attention is just the same as positive, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And so when you think about, even if we're seeing something negative, even if we're seeing that our friends are together and we are not, it still becomes this adrenaline rush in our brain, and we need that. And now more than ever, if you think about TikTok and all these things, our brains really are stimulated in smaller increments, like 30 to 45 seconds. So if you ever see these teachers now, they're all like, parents, please help us. Like the kids can only stay alert for less than a minute, and we can't teach basic things anymore. And that is just because we're constantly stimulated, and so whether that is social media, and that might be junk food, right? Junk food, when we think about eating, it releases the same chemicals as Wellbutrin, which is an antidepressant. And so when people eat, it releases neurotransmitters that makes us feel good, and we're on a roll. And so all of this overstimulation is really impacting us. And I think it's such a great conversation to have as adults, for our kids. What we want to do is just to kind of identify, what is it for you, whether that's video gaming or anything like that. Recently, I have middle schoolers. If anybody, we could do another subject on that. I have that where, all of a sudden they shut the door on you and they don't want to hang out. And so I realized you have to do parallel communication, which is just sitting next to them. And I literally got addicted to Block Blast, which is an app. And I'm like, this is so scary for people who have gambling addiction and things like that, because it is so triggering to your brain. or even binge watching and watching the drama on the Housewives Wives, or, the Mormon Wives now, whatever that might be for you, that's fine. But just recognize that, yes, me too now, is the feel good chemical that's happening. And so, but I really want to focus on though too, is this understanding that like if you find boredom in relationships and stuff, I challenge your listeners to think about that. Like, why is it boring to you? Because I find like friendships can kind of grasp to like gossiping or drama to be stimulated. And, we always talk, Susie, I know you talk about this too, Jim Rohn, the 5 people we spend the most time with is how we evolve. And so if that's who we are investing all our time with, just recognize that it might not be very healthy, because what happens when we have all this dopamine is that we have the mental clarity goes down, we become exhausted, we're overstimulated, which leads to burnout, it leads to anxiety and decreased motivation, right? And Susie, we were just talking this morning, that's exactly what we don't want. We want to be motivation mode, momentum,
That's
And
right.
so we don't want to just get trapped into this. The other thing would be online shopping with Amazon with the holiday season.
What? Hitting
Yeah,
buy now, that sends a trigger to me and makes me happy. I just don't
Right?
understand why I do it every day of the week. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yes.
yeah. Or what about Shein and Temu? Oh my
Oh,
Oh, yes.
goodness. You can
get
get
Oh
that
my
good deal.
sucked
gosh.
in and then your brain just starts going and yeah, yep. What
So
else can
here's
you get?
something fascinating is Gary Vee. I don't know if you guys know
Yeah,
him. He's a
we
big
love Gary Vee.
entrepreneur. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
love Gary
Mm-hmm.
Vee. He recently said the newest thing coming out is going to be the shop now on TikTok and Instagram. And he said it was already started in China 10 years ago and he's been waiting for it. So just to be able to do the TikTok shop now and just when you watch it and quickly going into that is crazy. And so
Wow.
I had heard of somebody who did what they didn't call it, but what I'm saying, a dopamine detox, where they did not go on TikTok. And not only did they have more time, but they also saved themselves hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of dollars.
I bet.
Wow.
Isn't that
Wow.
interesting?
It is so interesting. So what should people like what could people do to do this detox? Like what would
Yeah.
that look like for somebody?
Absolutely. The first thing, which we always say, is awareness. A is awareness, right? And so we
Mm-hmm.
want to identify, like, what is that for you? Is it Amazon? Or are you a workaholic like me and it's emails and the computer? Like, oh gosh,
Mm-hmm.
those things can become definitely. Is it the eating? Is it the scrolling? Is it who can I talk to? And so then what you need to do then is it's like I say, set a time. And if you need to start slow, 15 minutes where you just don't get on your phone, or maybe you set like, I can only purchase things on Friday on Amazon. So put them in your box. So you still have a little bit of stimulation, but never actually, purchase that to later. And then, replace that with things. And that would be like exercising, or I'm a huge motivator for meditation. And if everybody screams or shrieks, I get that. And that's why I've created in for my brain, I call it daydreaming instead, because meditation just makes me go into freeze modes of anxiety of failure. And that's a whole nother subject. But but really that's what I've been able to do to be able to kind of do that and just do simpler tasks, or even little things of like when you're eating your meals, just don't be on your phone when you're eating a meal. Like that is a very simple thing. Um, and here's the thing about it though, too. So it isn't completely like all or nothing. It's not going to restore your life in a little bit, and I just kind of had a couple of examples. I'm going to do two quick scenarios. Okay. So first, I'm going to give an example of an older man. He was 45. He was 13 years of substance abuse, and he became sober. So what a wonderful accomplishment, right? But he started to become addicted to work. And so he would get up early in the morning, he would scroll, he would check his emails, he would work through his lunch hours, he wouldn't get home till late. He was missing out on all of his children's events, and he overworked himself and he ended up having a heart attack. And by that time, it was too late, and his children were then grown up, and he had missed out on all this time. And so that is something that we want to do, and why it's just so important to check this and to have this conversation and to evaluate. And what I would say to that person is like, oh, it's too late. No, like small steps and big victories. So I always say like even if it's like I accomplished like 5 minutes, I've like, whoa, Jill, you did a great job. Like I celebrate in my brain, even putting like sometimes it might be putting spoons away, or doing the dishwasher, right, on a hard day, and always celebrating that. Something for the young listeners might be that social media addiction, where, people are getting up in the morning, they're scrolling while they're driving, they're checking their phones all the time throughout their workday. If you're like a 25-year-old, you're playing games, and then all of a sudden it's really hard to concentrate on your work tasks, because you're frequently checking. You might skip dinner, because you're doing that. And this young lady realized that she spent an entire weekend, so like 12 hours a day on her phone, and she just wanted to change. And so she realized that while she was doing that, she just had a huge sense of emptiness in herself. So she was really eliminating, she didn't have the joy in her life. And so when she decided that she was not going to do any apps for a week, she only did essential calls and text messages. And then she found different hobbies. And the poor girl on day one, guess what happened? Her anxiety skyrocketed. She was very restless. FOMO. She had the fear of missing out, and she was wondering what was happening online and what other people were doing. And the other biggest thing is, I'm going to tell you that's going to happen to everybody, is boredom. You're going to feel boredom. And so that you have to be mentally prepared for that part. By day 3, and we always talk about day 3, I always say let emotions flood for day 3. She started to like read a book. She started to go on walks. She started to do other little hobbies that would alleviate maybe feelings of socialization, having in-person conversations to do that. And by 7, she felt more engaged, and she felt that she could have more conversations with family, and she was talking more and things like that. And so she just kind of reinforced a different form of interacting and really began to have that self-fulfilling life, phone free, and started doing more things that were healthy for her.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. Just even like a small, like we always talk about how like baby steps, you know what I mean? Like that's kind of how you want to make changes, and we don't want to change everything all at once, but just taking some of those smaller steps. Like for her, that was a huge change, to be off of her phone, but then what good came out of it and stuff. And we always like to kind of challenge people because we like to take the challenge too of like, so how can we use this information to apply it to our life? So I'm wondering, Lindsay, I'm going to ask you.
I know. I
What,
do.
taking Jill's information to today, what do you feel like you could work on in your life?
I definitely. So you made me smile real big because I love drama. I love rich people drama. That's what I always say, because like when I watch rich people cry about their problems, I'm like, oh, that sounds terrible with your all your money and all your things, which we all know that that doesn't solve anything. But so I'm definitely addicted to those shows. But I love doing professional development and personal development and those books and trainings and things like that. And Susie's great about really challenging us to do those, to grow more in what like. So I for me it's going to be the challenge of, okay, before I sit and binge watch or catch up on my Real Housewife episode, maybe I make sure I read 2 chapters before I do that, and set really a goal. And I think making myself write it down might help. Tell myself in my planner, okay, this is when I'm going to do that. I don't have anything else going on, so I'm going to try to do that, because I have a book I have to finish before the end of the year, so.
Yes, yes, you do. I love it. I love it. That's a good one. I was just kind of thinking, I've noticed myself, and I always do this thing with social media that I get on in the morning for just a couple minutes and I post what I want to post, like what I want to like, and then again at night, and I don't let myself throughout the day. And that's just been a game changer for me. But I've noticed myself, especially lately, just kind of getting, I don't know if it's the holidays or what, but I've noticed myself spending a little bit longer than I normally do, in the morning. And then I also notice I don't like it. You know what I mean? I feel like it's a waste of time and whatnot. So I'm just going to be very, very aware, like Jill says, of that behavior.
Mhm.
So I love it. Anything else, Jill? I feel like you covered a lot and it's
I
really
know,
good
I'm
stuff. It makes
sorry.
people think, no, I love it. It's a good reminder for everybody and I feel like it's good information. I think a lot of people probably don't even realize, that
Right.
it's all our brains are so powerful.
They
So,
are. The other thing to think about too is that we're coming in the winter season, and so one of the things, I forget if it's my pronunciation is awful, but hoogie, or just remember getting those cozy blankets, a
oh
cozy
yeah.
drink, fire. Like, I mean, the weather's been kind of good, and then it got cold here in South Dakota. Now it's going to get 50 degrees again, which you guys have it much warmer, but even, embracing that cozy time just to have that reflection. I love that in the morning when everybody's sleeping and just having that time just for 15 minutes. I think everybody thinks it needs to be this huge change too. And the thing about it is that the brain works way better if you do it in 5 to 10 increments, just so it starts to normalize it because it's so used to looking for danger and being on high alert nonstop. It doesn't know how to relax.
I love
So yeah,
that. I
yeah,
love that. Yep, that's good. Relax our brains. That's what we got to come up with some kind of like little slogan
yeah.
to remind each other. So, that's good stuff, Jill. If people had questions or ever wanted to reach out to you, or they're in the South Dakota area, or now you're in
Oh
Nebraska
yeah.
and Iowa and Minnesota and everywhere, how
Yes.
would they get in touch with you?
Yes, it's easy. It's risinghope.com. But yes, if you have family in the area that need it, we have telehealth. We have over 20 locations in South Dakota, and we're kind of expanding Iowa, Minnesota, and Nebraska. So yeah, it's so great because you have family, the whole nation becomes small. So you can definitely just check out the website. Super easy, risinghope.com.
That's
Awesome.
awesome. And Lindsay, how do they get a hold of us?
Yes, of course. Yes. Thank you, Jill, so much for being on too. I love getting to
Yes.
see you and hear you. You're always amazing. So, but yes,
Hmm.
if anybody has questions for us or any maybe topics they want to hear about, we would love to know that. You can always comment here on however you're watching it. But Facebook, we always post a lot of events and things and just positive things that we think we like. If we like it, we like to share it with the world. So, hop on there and follow us on Facebook. And then our website is countrycrossroadscounseling.com. Find us on there anytime.
Absolutely. Thanks for listening, guys.